Okay, if you remember yesterday, we looked at this poem, Casey at the Bat. It is a special type of poem that uh, tells a story. This is a narrative poem. So while it follows the patterns of a poem, it also tells a story. So, and it's extra long too, longer than most poems. So what we're gonna, we talked about the different things, like the techniques that poets use, the different types of literary devices they use, and things like that. What you're going to do today is start yourself on the road to writing your own narrative poem. Now, Leslie, I know you don't have your poetry journal. I don't know about you other girls. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you don't, I've taken pictures of all these pages and I'm going to post them in Seesaw in the inbox so you can see them with all these questions there. And then you can just write the answers in your notebook. All right. But this is just going to take us through, the steps to writing our own poem. All right. A narrative poem, too. Let's just start by asking ourselves, what is a stanza? If you remember, a stanza looks like this. It's just a group of lines that make up part of a poem. That's what a stanza is. It's a group of lines that make up part of the poem. Kind of like a paragraph in a book. So we'll just say that a stanza is a group of lines that make up part of a poem. It's like a paragraph. That's what it's like, a paragraph. All right. And then look at, now I've answered that, but the rest is up to you to answer these. I'm going to read the questions, but you're going to answer them. All right. It says, number the stanzas in the poem, Casey at the Bat. How many stanzas does the poem contain? So you need to go through and count all those stanzas, see how many there are. And then how many lines are in each stanza? So count the lines that are in each stanza. And then write down the rhyming words in the poem's first stanza. So if you go back to that first stanza, you're going to find that there is rhyming words, all right? And so write them in pairs. Write them in pairs. For example, like one is day and play. So I would just write them down like this, just write day and play. And then I'll leave it up to you to write the other rhyming words, okay? So I told you I wouldn't give you answers, but I gave you part of that one. So, okay, so answer these questions here, then let's look over here. This is where you're going to start planning your own narrative poem. Casey at the Bat tells a story about how things didn't work out the way the people of Mudville thought they would. Remember, they were hoping with Casey at bat, their team would win the game because he's such a good player. But he ended up striking out and they didn't win. So it didn't work out the way they wanted or hoped. So you're going to follow this example in this writing activity. To get started, think of a time when something didn't go the way you expected. Write a sentence about that time in the space that follows. Okay, then this is going to require you to do some thinking. Think about something. Maybe you were getting excited for it. You were looking forward to something happening, and then it just didn't go the way you planned. All right, it didn't turn out the way you hoped it would. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe it's something like you you went to Worlds of Fun, wanted to go, but your favorite ride was broken down and wasn't working, something like that. Or maybe you wanted to go to a Royals game and it was rained out, and you couldn't go, something like that. Okay, I could think of a time when I went to a really great zoo. It's supposed to be a really good zoo in California. My family and I were all excited to go to the zoo. And then we got there. It was just, we thought it was really lame. Lots of animals weren't even out. We'd walk all over and not see anything. So it didn't at all work out the way we thought. So think of something in your life that didn't work out the way you expected it to. You were really excited for something to happen maybe and it just didn't go the way you wanted it to. So write a sentence that tells about that right there. Then answer these following questions to help you develop your ideas for your own poem. Describe the scene of your story. Where were you? So where did this happen? This thing that happened in your life. When did the story take place? And who was there with you? So this part where we're developing the poem, we're talking about where were you? When did it happen? And who was there with you? All right. So that's what you work on this page to get ready for your poem. And then this page, what did you expect to happen? What were you hoping would happen? And then what actually happened? Like for me, I could write here, I was hoping to see lots of really neat and unusual animals at the zoo we were at in San Diego, California. What actually happened? Well, lots of the animals weren't out. Things that we hoped to see, we didn't see. Some animals we thought would be really interesting just sat there and didn't do anything. So it was really a bummer. How did I feel about what happened? I could say I felt very disappointed. And then think of one detail you want to emphasize in your poem and write it here. I'd say one detail is that on one point we walked a really long ways all up like this long walkway that took a long time to get there to see these certain animals. And then when we finally got there, it was completely empty. There was no animals there. So we wasted all that time walking way up there. We didn't even see anything. And how will you emphasize that detail? Write the name of the poetic device you will use here. Now remember, what are our poetic devices? We could use rhyming words. That was a rhyme. We could use alliteration. You remember, alliteration is like when words start with the same letter. Like in Casey at the Bat, he used sickly silence and deep despair. Those begin with the same letter. He used that alliteration. Or you could use rhyming, of course. There's always rhyming you could use. Or figurative speech. Remember when he said he tore the cover off the ball? No, he didn't actually. That just meant he really hit it hard, you know? So maybe you could think of some figurative speech. I could say, I walked what felt like a million miles to see that animal, and then he wasn't there. Now, I didn't really walk a million miles, but it felt like I walked like that. You could use similes, right? I could say that the zoo was like a ghost town. There was nobody there, right? Or other metaphors you could do. All right, things make certain comparisons. All right, so think about those different types of devices: rhyming, metaphors, and similes, meaning figurative language, and um, and other devices. What to say? Rhyming, alliteration, similes, and metaphors. Repetition, where you say a certain word many times to make a point. So think about what device you'll use here. Okay. And then this is our spot where we'll make our draft. Because now it's time to start drafting. Use the following space to write your own poem. Of course, you're going to write this in your notebook if you don't have this. All right. If you finish with time remaining, read over your poem. In the space that follows, write down one more detail you could add to your poem to make it even better. So, now, okay, you saw how long Casey at the Bat was. It's like 3 pages. Do we expect yours to be that long? No. Okay. We're not all famous poets like that guy who wrote that. And actually, that guy's name, what do we say, is Ernest Lawrence Thayer. We are not professional poets like him. Okay? So that's your job to do. Go through those pages, answer those questions, and it's going to help you get ready to write your poem, and then you can make your first draft of your poem. All right? So this could take some time. I don't know that you'd get it all done today. We might have to work on it more on Monday also. So, but anyway, I'll probably be putting in a space, not today, but probably Monday. I'll put in a space in Seesaw for you to turn in this poem. All right, so be ready to do that. Okay.